literature he received as an adolescent from a Lutheran pastor in Cleveland Heights, Ohio, to the classes he audited at Ohio State University, to the reading he did while he was in prison for draft resistance, right on up to the articles on novel energy sources on his desk in 2001, Bob's intellectual activity was constant. If this book is more about the ideas than the man, it's because Bob lived his ideas. Although he didn't lack insight or empathy, he was not interested overmuch in the depths of anyone's psychology or personality, not even his own. Without simply recapitulating it, On Gandhi's Path follows, amplifies, and adds detail to the story Bob tells in his own autobiography, Peace, Civil Rights, and the Search for Community. To do this, I chose to rely primarily on written and published sources. Although the annals of Bob's times engrossed me and the historical impulse took hold, I have written as a journalist rather than as an historian or economist. An exhaustive biography would have been beyond both my knowledge and the assignment. Because I too am a species of decentralist, my appreciation of Swann's work will be obvious. A visionary for his time and ours, Bob Swann was articulate, creative, prolific, and, for decades of his life, right in the thick of historic social movements. To try with any number of words to do justice to such a person's life is humbling. Perhaps the difficulty of selecting the most salient aspects of such an engaged life is just the biographical version of the agony of art. The work will always fall short of full portraiture. On Gandhi's Path begins with a consideration of community economics, for that is the field where Bob Swann did his most useful work. Just past the midpoint in his life, Swann discovered his aptitude and passion for economic reform. His decentralism was cardinal. Without cant or exhortation, Swann improved the morality by recalibrating the optimum scale of various economic endeavors. Now, as global industrial civilization flails in the throes of an ecological and economic crisis, Swann's working innovations are at the ready to help neighborhoods, local entrepreneurs, and willing communities with an ethic of mutual aid to rebuild at appropriate scales. Bob Swann was born comfortably middle class in 1918. The first chapter of this book outlines his early years. Precociously independent, he clashed with his father early on. Regardless, he enjoyed his childhood in a convivial neighborhood next to a woodland that afforded a freedom just right for kids. The Swann family was affected by the Great Depression, but nobody starved. Straitened circumstances meant that Bob wound up living like a bohemian while he audited classes at Ohio State University. It was there, as America's entry into World War II drew nigh, that he decided to resist the draft. His absolutism led to a stint in prison and to decades of peace activism thereafter. War resistance in the U.S. called for uncommon courage and adamant principle. Its history is too little known. Chapter 3 begins with a glimpse at that history, for radical pacifism shaped Swann's life. Gandhi galvanized the thinking of the American peace activists of Bob's younger days. Honoring Gandhi's two-legged strategy, American radical pacifism concerned itself as much with the creation of social alternatives, racial integration among them, as it did with the refusal to participate in war. Incarcerated conscientious objectors, COs, Swann's cohorts, teemed with ideas for a positive future. Like war resistance, decentralism has a substantial if little-known history in America. While Bob Swann was imprisoned for non-compliance with the draft, Arthur Morgan, a prominent decentralist author and educator, offered the conscientious objectors a correspondence course on the small community. Bob became a star pupil. To introduce today's readers to some of the earlier literature of decentralism, not least Morgan's work, an account of that course makes up much of the fourth chapter of this book. After getting out of prison, Bob Swann married Marjorie Schaffer, a fellow pacifist. The Swanns proceeded to live an unorthodox, activist version of the post-war years. Bob began his career as a designer and a builder of residences. It was a time when the cooperative movement was vibrant, involving a whole range of people who were looking for economic